Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. I'm Nick, and today we're talking about New Year's resolutions that work. For any resources and show notes, you can go to illuminationacademy.net/INK140. That's illuminationacademy.net/INK140. And now we're going to dive in to get our New Year's resolutions on. Hey there, Kisma.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really well.
So this, I think it's important for context. This show is being recorded in early to mid-December.
Yeah, mid-December.
Is it mid-December
it's
already?
It's nearly mid-December, believe it or freaking not.
Golly, that goes by fast.
I know.
Well, anyway, this is so... A lot of people are in the mode of either wrapping up 2018, giving up on 2018.
Don't give up, people. We got a couple of weeks to go. Keep telling my clients. Many more days to make sales.
Or starting to think about what they would like to see shift or have be different in 2019.
Yeah, that's where I'm really leaning to in the next couple of weeks. Vision.
Yeah.
Setting some dates, retreats, workshops, etc.
Getting it all on the books.
Getting it on the books.
Yeah,
that's a big one for me.
But the resolutions are a big conversation. And, you know, I think it's a valuable conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, because people talk about New Year's resolutions all the time. You're going to get like a million commercials about gyms and diets and resolutions and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know,
could be.
Personally, I think it's good to think
You think it's good to think about change and giving up something?
I think it's not necessarily that. I think it's good to think about, 2018 happened. Now, what would I like to have in 2019?
That's cool, of course.
You know, and it does invite and inspire some self-reflection about where things might have gone awry,
right?
Where we may not have stepped up to the plate,
where we did step up to the plate, where we really crushed it,
where it really did work. Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting one as well. It's because so many times people start doing things that work, and then they quit.
Right? It's a whole different podcast. Darn little upper limiter.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah, but it is. You're right. Like New Year's resolutions, when it's approached in the right way, can be so valuable.
Very valuable.
I just find from my research, because I've been working on a couple articles around this, is that, you know, for instance, U.S. News and World Report put out that by the second week of February, 80% of New Year's resolution makers are in disappointment mode.
Wow.
They're disappointed with themselves. They're disappointed with their exercise. Like it's freaking in the middle of the winter. Who wants to add on disappointment? That's just no fun. So 80%. So if we set up New Year's resolutions and a month and a half later, we're disappointed, kind of defeats the purpose of a positive change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's an important part of the conversation is how to set yourself up for success.
Exactly.
So I see there's two parts I want to ask you about. First is how do you go about setting a resolution for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
are there some guidelines? Like, what do you think about?
Well, I think keeping it simple is good, and reflecting back to our podcast before this of the law of receiving, and there's perfection in front of you, is just look at, like you said, what do you want to be different? Mm-hmm. You know, that reflection part without a huge charge. So we know that what goes up must come down. And what I see happening again and again is that people get really pumped up. I'm going to lose like 37.5 pounds and I'm going to go to the gym. And there's so much fever behind it. One cannot sustain that excitement for an entire year. You're going to implode. Mm-hmm. When you drop into a more neutral, it's like, well, what do I really want to be different? You're making an observation using your intellect. You're being honest. And you're poised to then approach it in a way that is just like step by step by step. So you don't like pump up and get all excited and then come crashing down. Mm-hmm. There's a reason like the gyms are really packed the first week of January. Well, that does not last long. So my suggestion is, okay, decide what you want to be different. And then begin by choosing one step.
Okay.
and let it be. It's sort of like that. We talk about what's the one thing you can change where it's like that neck crack, and your whole spine goes, ooh, and everything's really easy. So it's looking at what's one thing you can change that will make your exercise better, routine easier, if it's diet, losing weight, will allow that diet to go faster. If it's building more wealth, like what's the one thing you can do right now that is a choice in that direction?
Right.
So in essence, really, the only New Year's resolution, the only exercise or only muscle to exercise is that of choice.
The choice.
Because choice is what will move us forward, and lack of choice or choosing the wrong thing or the thing that's not in our best interest is what will move us back.
Okay.
So we've got to build the muscle of choice.
The muscle of choice. I want to circle back to that. But first, I want to talk about this really interesting thing that I see a lot of people do is when they're setting their resolutions, they're thinking about, well, you asked, so what do you want to be different? Well, I want to, let's say, for example, I want to quit drinking. I want to stop this thing. I want to not do that thing. All right. And what do you think about when a resolution is framed in a negative like that? Because
I want to stop something.
Yeah, I want to stop this.
Yeah, it's a really good point because energetically a stop doesn't feel, it's like, oh, I got to stop this. And then all of a sudden it becomes a thing.
Yeah.
I've got to. So possibly a better look at that or an easier look at this is I want to have more energy. So what's the one thing I can choose, or I want to feel more vibrant every day. I want to feel more positive. What's the one thing I can choose right now that will contribute to that?
Right.
Well, anybody out there that drinks a lot of wine, the next morning you feel kind of low.
Yeah.
So it could be, I'm not drinking during the week. Or I'm just going to simply stop drinking because it's more important to me to feel more vibrant. So attaching a why, an ideal, is going to make any choice easier, and it's going to allow us to stick to it longer.
Yeah.
Because there's an essence, there's a why to it.
Right. The why is important. So if you're in that place, and you may just be kind of stuck in your own perspective around that of, well, okay, I'm looking around, here's all these things that I'm doing, particularly in December, oftentimes that are like, I need to stop that.
Yeah, right.
Lay off the cookies.
Yeah.
Tone down the wine. Like whatever that is for you in your life. If you're kind of stuck on that part, it's like, okay, well, why is that important to you? Like, what do you want to have instead of that?
Exactly, and it comes back to, Nick, that desire. We can't squash a desire; it's there. We can only replace it with a higher. So again, choosing higher, it all comes back to a choice.
Yeah.
I want to choose a different way to feel that has more energy, or I want to choose a body weight that's more healthy, or I want to choose to get up early so that I get certain things done instead of staying up late and watching reruns of Law and Order. We've got to replace it with something higher.
Right. And I think that's really important. To me, when it's not replaced with something higher, it becomes a house of cards.
Oh, yeah.
So it becomes this like really controlling way of living your life of like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get to bed at this time and I'm going to do this. And if something changes in that, or at a certain point, you're just like, all right, well, I'm living this really restrictive life. Like, why am I even doing this? Like, it lacks that color and that spark and that real meaning to everything that you're doing. And when you're in a mode of, really understanding and being connected to the why behind that, or what purpose that serves in your life,
right, then
you've got a much more exciting game to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the things I like to do is look at choosing, again, back to that one thing that makes it easier. So for instance, if any of you want to start exercising in the morning, make it easy. Choose to have your clothes right by your bed. Right by your bed. So you roll out of bed, you see your exercise clothes, you see your tennis shoes or whatever, and you put them right on. That's the thing that makes it easier, because otherwise what happens? You get out, you kind of whatever. By the time you get your clothes on and out the door or on your treadmill or doing yoga, you kind of lost some momentum.
Yeah, you're bringing up a really interesting point here.
If you want to meditate, journal, study, we know this from the academy, have it all set up and ready for you to just slide on in and drop in.
Yeah.
Because if you're running around the house looking for your mala beads or your incense or your book or your whatever, it's not going to happen. It's just you slide right in.
Yeah. Or it gets frustrating.
Yeah.
So I think there's real value in, as you're setting it up, think about the ways that you're going to fail. How are you going to screw it up? It's not to like...
Wait, what happened to last week's episode of Everything's Perfect, Nick?
Well, no, but we're setting ourselves up. We're setting ourselves up to have, because we all know, like, you the listener, you know what you've done in the past. You know the ways that you've
stepped
set
right over those
up to fail.
clothes. Yeah,
you know how you've done that, and that's the most fascinating part about it is you already know.
Yeah,
it's right there. But to give it a thought and to just really take some extreme ownership over. All right. Here's where I typically fall off the wagon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And to use that information to set yourself up for success. Mm-hmm. That's one of the key points.
Right.
That's one of the key points. For me, that's a really important one. Like there's a really important little step for me between getting out of bed and, sitting down to do my thing. Mm-hmm. And that's actually just doing some really light stretching or exercise for maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
That's it. That's it. But I do need to do that because if I don't, then when I do sit down to study, it just is like
heavy.
It's like, it's hard. It's just, it's like, whoa, man, I'm really having to work at this.
Right.
But when I do that little bit of exercise for myself, man, I just slip right into it.
So that's the one choice you make to get to the next piece.
It is. And I also know, some of the pitfalls along the way so that I can kind of take those out of the equation.
Right. I think it would look like, too, if someone wants to say, give up sugar. Well, what drives you to eat sugar?
Oh, good one.
Is it a glass of wine, right? Is it a favorite TV shows? Like, what drives you to eat sugar?
Yeah.
And find that and pluck it out. And then have a little reminder of yourself, what sugar actually does to the body. This is my thing. I love sugar.
You do.
I do.
You love the sugar.
And I'm doing better.
Huh? Yeah. No, I'm not saying that you aren't. I'm just saying.
But it's really
I know
like,
that about you.
Yeah,
you love the sugar.
I know. It's whatever. So not having it in the house. Like I almost bought chocolate the other day. I was like, I'm not going to buy this, even though it was good chocolate. I was like, not going to buy it. It just doesn't serve. So
that's an important one. Yeah, the times that you fall into that. Maybe it's sitting down to watch a show and you grab for it. Okay, fair enough. You want to watch your show? I get that. Make sure that you have another alternative available.
Right.
Because if you go to reach in there and all there is chocolate, well, you're eating the chocolate.
You're eating the chocolate. And
but if you've got some popcorn or something a little lighter.
Or carrots or something healthy. Oh, God, it sucks. But anyways, no, I do love my veggies. But it is important, too, because here's another thing. If you know that you overeat late at night, get yourself to bed.
Right.
Like have this little, okay, TV's going off. I'm going to bed so that I can reboot in the morning and be active, get the stuff done. Yeah. So it's like, what's the real choice? The real choice is to get to bed.
Right.
The real choice isn't to not overeat. The real choice is to get to bed. So you're taking care of yourself. So you're not in that hungry, angry, lonely, tired where you're going to grab the sugar.
Right.
So I think it's cool if y'all can dial it into the one choice, like exercise that one choice that makes everything else easier, that makes eating right easier, that makes exercising, that makes maybe your New Year's resolutions to be a better human, or maybe it's to sleep better.
Right.
So one thing before the sleep is like, well, you're not going to drink coffee. You're not going to overeat. Choose to set it all up. Like you said, to avoid the failures, but to set it up for success. Right.
And I just think it's really helpful to own those in yourself of, you already know where they are. And so, okay, great. Like take the ownership of it and set yourself up to, to not fall into that. I think that's important.
And I have one other tip that is kind of fun is write some love notes to yourself.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, journals and all that thing, that's cool. You can journal and you can plan. I love planning and notes and whatever. But really just like on your calendar, even if it's a Google calendar, let's say it's, January 10th. Just write a little love note, like, how you doing over there with that exercise of choice? Like, how's your choice muscle going?
That's a cool idea.
It is. End of January. How are you? Like, did you, have you done X, Y, and Z? What do you need to get back on? What's the one thing you need to choose to get back on? So if you're constantly asking yourself, what's the one thing you need to get back on? It's an easier back on the horse.
Yeah.
Right. But if you keep just driving it without the check-ins, at some point you're just like, I give up, because you've lost sight of what's the one thing.
Right.
You've lost sight of the ideal around it, the why around it. So write those little love notes to yourself with the reminder all the way through March and April, so that by then you've got your habit form, that this is the new way of being.
That's an awesome idea.
It is an awesome idea.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about it like that. Because it seems like once you lose your footing with it, it's super hard to get.
You just go back to old ways.
Yeah. And it's challenging, I think, to re-get your footing, and to really, you got to kind of hit that reset button.
Right.
Like, okay, like we're going to reset the button and
right.
back on.
Exactly.
Back on.
Yeah.
So for me, this what makes me think about is like, okay, there's really quite a bit of thought that goes into setting a resolution that you can expect to succeed at. All right. And maybe stretches you in some really great ways. So don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah. Right. Simple.
Yeah.
One little choice at a time, people.
Like don't make it too complicated, and don't overload yourself with like, I'm going to change my whole life,
Good luck.
Like that.
Let me know how it goes.
Man, that's a lot all at once. So just like pick the one thing.
And there will be a one thing that makes that whole life kind of just fall into place better.
Yeah. If you're a really ambitious person, pick a few, but make them in different areas of your life.
That's a good way to put it.
Maybe you want to do something different or include something different in your relationship. Commit to, I'm resolving to date night. Date night's important, everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's really important. Okay, so great. So you're going to do that. Same thing, set up your little plan for it, because you're going to know, what are the reasons that you might not do that.
But here's where I want to interject to keep it simple. If someone out there knows they need to set a date night, whether it's weekly or monthly, put it in your calendar now.
Well, exactly.
Put it in your calendar now, and then for the next month and the next month.
Yeah.
And then put it in your calendar, and the week before, put a reminder. Dinner, reservations, movie, something. Make it so simple that it's just part of the flow.
Right. And that's what I'm saying is like, okay, so you've got that one thing, then you've got maybe something with your health.
Yeah.
Maybe you're going to, maybe one more, but that's already the things that need to change in order to help those be really successful are significant enough that other areas of your life are also going to be impacted by that, probably in a really big way. So you don't have to do everything all at once. You can actually just focus on a few things and really make a beautiful change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so much more fun and easier.
So that's my permission slip to every one of you to not have to do everything all at once, and to allow yourself the luxury of just choosing one or maybe two things that will really make an impact in your life, and commit fully to those.
Right. I love it. Kind of like, I don't know why this just downloaded, but how many days did the Bible say God took to make the earth? 7 days?
7 days.
Well,
6 days. He rested on the 7th.
Yeah. Okay. So we know like whatever that represents. 6 years, 6 months, 6 whatever, but piece by piece.
Piece by piece.
God's pretty smart.
Yeah. Even.
And then he took a rest.
Yeah. Yeah. In that teaching. Yeah.
He, it.
That being.
The one.
Yeah. Did it step by step. It didn't do it all at once. Interesting. I hadn't really thought about it that way.
All right. So pretty cool. Love to hear from you guys what your New Year's resolution choice muscle is. What are you going to choose? Like, choose one thing.
Yeah. And what a great place to commit it. You can send us an email just to put it out in there so that some other human being sees that.
info@sourcemovement.com. Send us a Facebook post or comment in the show notes right below, which are...
illuminationacademy.net/INK140.
140th episodes. Come on, guys, celebrate with us. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty awesome.
Share it, comment. We love to hear from you and so appreciate you being here. And hey, let's crush 2019.
2019 is going to be amazing.
It already is.
Yeah. Peace.
Namaste.